Alright, we'll see if we're live. Yes, we are. Okay. How you guys all doing? Welcome to the Yissel Missile Productions channel. My name is Steven Yassel, and today we are continuing our deep dive into Coral Castle and its creator, Ed Leedskalnin. Today we are diving into the last of the pamphlets. And this has a lot of related stuff in here, but this is expanding on a lot of ancient history and how it ties together with Coral Castle, and I think it's going to be a pretty good read. So I'm not sure if we'll get through the entirety of the Enigma of Coral Castle today. There's over 40 pages in here. But we will get to a good amount of it. And maybe I'll save half for next week. But, yeah. Taking a week off, it actually felt good doing that, but I don't want that to be a habit here, because I do like presenting these every week. So I'm going to get us started here. I'll make myself a little smaller. And we'll begin The Enigma of Coral Castle by Ray N. Stoner. And on the bottom here it says Bradford Institute of Ultra Science. And there's no UPC on the back. I'm not sure if you could find this online. You probably can. I personally picked this up from the gift shop at Coral Castle. So we'll read the preface and the foreword, which are just a page each. And then we'll start getting into this. I don't know what you would call this. It's a stapled pamphlet. It's a large format pamphlet. I'll just call it that. Yeah, because there's no real publication information here. Okay, so I'll get started, and we'll start with the preface here. It says, man's consciousness is vaguely perceiving a universe misted in legend and folklore. Even with all of today's scientific tools, there are more mysteries than ever. The solution to each mystery only presents a new set of finite and infinite questions. Those who seek and solve these enigmas are called fringe scientists. They study those things for which conventional science has no title or cubbyhole. These fringe scientists, or borderlanders as they are called, reach out into the darkness of the mysteries. In touching something unseen, they hope to convey what was sent to those of us who are aware enough to listen. Then there are those scientists who, by using valid scientific methods, accumulated knowledge, intuition, theology, universal mind communication, and hard work, reach into the darkness of the enigma, touch the mystery, and bring it back so we all may experience it personally. Ray N. Stoner holds a Bachelor of Science degree in the Ultra Sciences and presents for our personal experience the Enigma of Coral Castle. And this was written by Michael H. Bradford, Executive Director of the Bradford Institute of Ultra Science in Cape Coral, Florida. And then the foreword is written by Ray N. Stoner. It says, before man began recording history, he constructed megalithic buildings upon the surface of this planet. The origin of the Great Pyramid at Giza was lost in the midst of time when the historian Herodotus visited it in the 5th century BC. Stonehenge, too, was ancient when the Druids began dancing upon the shadows of the Saracen Circle. In studying these structures, one realizes a similarity in purpose, design, and construction. How they were engineered or erected is unknown. Consequently, their builders are credited with having possessed lost sciences. This paper is a recording of the common characteristics found at 4 of these megalithic sites: the Great Pyramid at Giza, Egypt; Stonehenge in England; the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, Mexico. I know I said that wrong. Teotihuacan, Mexico. Coral Castle in Homestead, Florida. So the 4 places again are the Great Pyramid at Giza, Stonehenge, the Pyramid of the Sun, and Coral Castle. Coral Castle's construction presents the most recent enigma, for there are people still alive who knew Ed Leedskalnin. It is my hope that in the study of this paper, you too will begin to think, question, and search as together we rediscover the roots of man's heritage. And that's by Ray N. Stoner of Cape Coral, Florida, in May 1983. So with that begins the paper. So I guess this is a 40-plus page paper that's been put into a paperback form here. But we'll begin with page 1. All over the face of our planet are scattered megalithic ruins which have puzzled scientists, researchers, and philosophers alike. While there is no shortage of theorists' speculation as to the origins of these ancient structures, there has been a frustrating lack of actual proof to positively validate any possible answer to the meaning and purpose of these monuments. A clear evaluation of the available information reveals some fascinating interrelationships, not only concerning the structures, but their locations as well. There has even been some speculation that these structures were all designed by the same builder. There's a quote here from Bonnie Gaunt from Stonehenge, A Closer Look, which I guess is a book which was printed in New York in 1982. It says, quote, "But the mystery and intrigue multiplies when we discover that the geometry of these ancient stone circles, Stonehenge, is commensurate with the geometry of the Great Pyramid in such a way that both monuments appear to have been built by the same architect. Perhaps, on the other hand, the architecture was the product of a group of men who each possessed the same knowledge and awareness. The mathematical and geodetic similarities that exist among these ruins can best be illustrated by the comparative study of 3 ancient and 1 modern megalithic sites." And here we have listed the locations, longitudes and latitudes, the geometric form, the I guess, astronomical alignment, ratios, and then it says converter. Not sure what that is. But I'll show that here, just briefly. And as of right now, I haven't looked into the relevance of these locations and how they go together with each other. But I'm sure it'll be outlined here as we move along. And just continuing off the other page, there's Coral Castle. And then I believe we have an overhead drawn map of Stonehenge here. And my apologies if you can't read it. There we go. Alright, let's continue. Okay. It is evident these buildings occupy unique locations on the Earth's surface and show a definite mathematical linkage to each other. This is not their only association, however, for they also serve as energy accumulators, modulators, or switching stations in a worldwide power grid. This network was operated long ago in man's misty past. And this next quote is by David Zink from Stones of Atlantis, which I believe is another book published in New Jersey, 1978. Quote, "The Earth is seen as a crystalline structure reflected up through power points that cover the Earth and have significant intersections in the Bermuda Triangle, which includes Bimini, at the Giza in Egypt, or at Giza in Egypt, and in Peru. These and other intersections also happen to be maximal points of solar radiation and the centers of unexplained magnetic inconsistencies on the Earth. This planetary grid system's lines appear to coincide with weather patterns, including hurricanes, mid-oceanic ridges, and edges of continental plates. Common to these four structures are four numbers which represent the ratio of various internal and external measurements." And before we move on, there's another little representation there. Yeah, it's of the grid lines. I'm not sure why you put it in a circle like that. It says these numbers are represented by phi, which is 1.61. There's a lot more digits to it. 2, which is pi, 3.14. 3 for lowercase e, which is 2.71. Number 4, I want to say it's 12 to the root of 2, or 2 to the root of 12. I can't remember what, but it's 1.05. So those 4 numbers, and it's actually really seems kind of random, the numbers. It says common to these 4 structures are 4 numbers which represent the ratio of various internal and external measurements. Okay, and then it says each of these constants has an intriguing and interesting history. Frequently, each would be discovered or deduced by mathematicians from different cultures and areas. During the late 1800s, Sir John Herschel and Piazzi Smith, in their studies of the geodetic values of the Great Pyramid at Giza, postulated a 6,356 kilometer polar Earth radius. A polar Earth radius is defined as the smallest spherical geometric measurement, a constant which extends downward from the north polar axis and intersects the Earth's diameter plane at a 90-degree angle. This number is the prime measure used in the construction of the Great Pyramid at Giza, and is the sacred cubit, which Sir Isaac Newton multiplied by 10 million to give him a polar radius of the Earth. There's another diagram. It says 10 million meters and 10 million pyramid sacred cubits. I don't even know if you'll be able to see this. There we go. And that's apparently what Isaac Newton used. Okay. Now, Harleston in his work at the Sun Pyramid at Teotihuacan, Mexico, looking for a shorter unit measure. And then this is a quote from Peter Tompkins' Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids, which was printed in Toronto in 1976. It says, quote, divided 0.6356 meters by 1/10 and obtained a figure of 1.059, a very significant quantity in the realm of the mathematician, virtually the 12th root of a 2, or virtually the 12th root of 2, a number which multiplied by itself 12 times gives a product of 2. It is hardly insignificant to the search for universal laws to note that, quote, the constant of 1.059 controls not only the frequencies of sound, but those of light. If visible light is divided into 6 basic colors from ultraviolet to infrared, omitting the arbitrary indigo, the frequency of each succeeding color is obtained by multiplying by 1.059 or its square. End quote. During the International Geophysical Year of 1957 to 58, the Earth's mean polar radius was established to be 3,949.89 miles. When converted into inches, the resulting 250,265,030.4 inches has a significant correlation to the Egyptian long or sacred cubit of 25.0265 inches. This once again relates to Newton's 0.6356 sacred cubit or 25.02 inches. Thus the geometry of the megaliths appears to prove the relationships between these numbers. It is not only I always struggle with this word here. Incommensurable. It is not the only and it's not the only number that is put to use. Both pi and phi are either present at these sites or their presence is postulated. The pyramid at Giza is a precise mathematical structure based upon the mathematical ratios of phi and pi. In fact, it has been conclusively proven that for all practical purposes, pi and phi are the same numbers. And as we can see, the problem becomes easier as the original values prove themselves to be the same. The 12th root of 2 is found to be Earth commensurate as 0.6356 or 1.059, and pi and phi are synonymous. This is really making me think here. Or I'll get back to the slideshow. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to do that. All right. Today, the incommensurates 2.71 is known as Euler's irrational number. For most purposes, it is rounded off to 2.72. E is used in the construction of pyramids and to determine the number of vertices, edges, and faces in each of the 5 regular polyhedrons. In the language of the megaliths, 2.72 is known as the megalithic yard and is found in the measurement of both the Great Pyramid and Stonehenge. Quote, at Stonehenge, these numbers appear in the principal units of measurement of antiquity: the foot, the yard, the cubit, and the megalithic yard of 2.72 feet. The megalithic yard has been found all over the world and in India is known as Akbar's yard. Charpentier discovered the evidence of its use at Chartres, probably saying that wrong, and it was incorporated in the Great Pyramid. The megalithic yard, as Tom found to be used at Stonehenge, is also an essential component of Egyptian measures. Quote, the best known of Egyptian measures is the royal cubit of 1.72 feet and the remen of 1.2165 feet. These two are related in that a square with sides of 1 remen has a diagonal of 1 royal cubit. 2 other linear units are Palestinian cubit of 2.107 feet and the Roman pace of 2.433 feet. All of these are related to one another. End quote. That's a lot of information. So they have listed here. I'll show this again, big. So we have all of these measurements listed out. And they all vary. It's kind of interesting. All right. Quote, the mean circumference of the Sarsen Circle at Stonehenge, 316.8 feet, is a number clearly identified with the Earth, Sun, and Moon. The diameter of the Earth is 7,920 miles, and a square drawn on a circle of that diameter has a perimeter of 31,680 miles. The radius of the Earth is 31,680 furlongs. The Sun has a diameter of 864,000 miles, which is equal to 316,800 mmi. 14,440 equals 1 megalithic mile, or 2.72 repeating miles. 1 megalithic mile. Oh, so they're saying that the Earth has a diameter of 316,800 megalithic miles. Because it says MMI. Wasn't sure about that there. Yeah, this is some heavy material. I don't read about this too often either. So, alright, we'll keep moving. Now, a square megalithic yard, 2.72 squared, equals 7.4. This is the equivalent of 2.5 royal cubits of 1.72 feet squared. 7.4 equals 2.5 royal cubits. It also should be noted that, quote, the ratio between the areas of the Sarsen and Bluestone circles, the ratio between the squares of their radii, is 1.6 to 1. This shows that the builder not only understood the function of pi and could calculate the area of a circle, but additionally he understood the function of phi, the golden section which gives the monument its pleasing sense of balance and proportion. End quote. The engineering achievements found at these sites are of such magnitude that only today are we beginning to understand their complexities. Stonehenge was designed in relation to the heavens as a temple observatory where ancient astronomers could watch and record the movements of the sun and moon. It is not situated on a hilltop nor in a valley, but on a broad plain which slopes gently toward the northeast and the Avon. Nevertheless, the top surface of the ring of lintels, which forms the crown of the Sarsen Circle, is level. Quote, lest we tend to overlook the marvelous engineering of the builder, let us remember that those perfectly shaped lintels were tooled before being lifted into place, that they were not only curved to form a perfect circle, but were also given mortise holes on their undersides to fit over corresponding tenons atop each upright, and were given tongue and groove fittings on each end. These 7-ton boulders were tooled and shaped at the quarry some 20 miles away. Cut and fit methods were not used. The precision with which the level, perfect circle was accomplished by men working without modern technology or sophisticated tools is staggering to our powers of comprehension. End quote. And then, quote, one of the landowners upon whose land these megaliths stand said in several of his published works that the Scottish circles dated from about 8000 BC. They functioned as both lunar observatories and as receiving stations for the influences of the heavenly bodies at certain seasons. They were, he said, by which the pre-Celtic Druids were able to control the Earth's magnetism and uplift the entire people by integrating them with the elements of nature. So I'll read that one more time. They were, he said, by which the pre-Celtic Druids were able to control the Earth's magnetism and uplift the entire people by integrating them with the elements of nature. We'll keep going up into... I want to get through Stonehenge, and then it starts talking about the Great Pyramid. And I think we'll wrap up with Stonehenge today. This is a lot of information. Alright, let's continue. Quote, there are over 900 stone circles known in the British Isles. Many of these are now too wrecked to give information about their original dimensions, but of those more intact, Professor Tom has visited and surveyed the majority. Analysis of the surveys has established that they form either true or geometrically flattened circles in a limited range of types, and that the unit of measure of their designers was the megalithic yard of 2.72 feet. The same unit and the same canon of megalithic geometry occur in stone circles from the Orkneys in Western Isles to the tip of Cornwall and over into Brittany, thus implying the existence of a central scientific authority in prehistoric northern Europe and a similarity of purpose behind all stone circles and associated monuments. That purpose, according to Tom, was basically astronomical. Sighting lines were ranged from a point in the circle toward the sun at the solstices, equinox, and the other feast days of the calendar, marked on the horizon by stone pillars or cairns, or by natural features such as peaks, notches in mountain ranges or distant islands. Other lines indicated the transit of stars or of the moon, and Tom in his later work has emphasized the importance of lunar observations to the builders of the circles and the extreme accuracy they achieved in measuring the moon's complicated cycles. A remarkable feature of some sites, Castle Rigg, the stone circle in Cumberland, for example, is that the construction lines in the internal geometry of the design are also, when projected outwards from the circle, long-distance sighting lines toward astronomical events. The most finished example of this type of synthesis is Stonehenge, which has been sited in such a way that the formal geometry of the stone circles allows for 12 sighting lines, 4 to the extreme yearly positions of sunrise and sunset, and 8 to the turning points of the moon over its 18.61 year cycle. To find the required sites where the construction lines of a given geometrical design also form astronomical sighting lines represents a feat of surveying which could hardly be reproduced by modern methods. The architect has created something here that is truly remarkable. He understood, or it says, quote, he understood the Earth's distance from the Sun, the speed of its orbit, and the rate of rotation, and recorded it for all generations in the circles of this wonderful monument. Stonehenge is truly a microcosm of the universe, end quote. Now, I do want to mention that I'm aware that Stonehenge was, like, tampered with. Like, the stones were lifted and repositioned. So I'm not sure how the accuracy would still be there. But let's continue. We'll get through, I want to say, another 2 pages. This is heavy material here. I gotta take time to absorb this all in. If a close evaluation of the architecture reveals easily determined interrelationships, what other information could possibly be stored here? In referring to Stonehenge, Mitchell says, quote, it has been called a temple, an observatory, a memorial, a parliament, an acropolis, an orrery, a Stone Age computer, and much more besides. One might almost suppose that it was specifically designed to accommodate every notion that could possibly be projected onto it. All of man's cumulative knowledge? Question mark, and that's in parentheses. That's under that quote. In looking at the location of Stonehenge at 51 degrees 2 inches 2 feet north latitude, one cannot help making the association that Giza has slope angles of 51 degrees 51 feet. If a line were to be made which was the sum of radii of the Earth and the Moon and used as a pyramid height, the Earth's diameter as its base, the angle of the pyramid would be 51 degrees 51 inches. It seems, therefore, that we can be safely assumed that 1. Stonehenge is a gigantic solar-lunar observatory. 2. It is constructed at such a position on the Earth's surface because only at this location, 51 degrees 2 feet north latitude, can a specific astronomical or celestial geometric effect be observed. Were these relationships not strange enough, this angle of 51 degrees 51 feet, or pi angle, gives to the pyramid's vertical height the same ratio to its square base as the radius of the circle to its circumference. Finally, 51 degrees 51 feet is also the angle of the summer solstice sunrise to north at Stonehenge. And I'm probably reading that wrong, and I apologize that I'm reading that wrong, but sorry. It's just how it is today. The structure at Giza is built upon a base which is level over 13 acres to within 0.5 inches. The slope angles of the pyramid are 51 degrees 51 feet, 14.3 inches. Almost the same as the angle of latitude of Stonehenge. 51 degrees 10 feet 8 inch north. Whose famous blue stone circle was apparently quarried in the megalith-littered Preseli Mountains in Pembrokeshire, South Wales. The site Carnmini, spelled Meini, lies on latitude 51 degrees 57. See, I'm reading that wrong. 51 degrees 57 5 north. And is located 240 air miles from Stonehenge. Meanwhile, the azimuth of the midsummer sunrise from Stonehenge, the basis of the monument's general alignment, is north 51 degrees 12 east. Quote, at the same time, the layout of Stonehenge's Aubrey holes seems to have been planned around an isosceles triangle having a slope angle of 51 degrees 19 at a height of 100 Egyptian royal cubits, while the dimensions of its Sarsen ring are apparently related to the same circle by the geometry of the seven-pointed star. But the same angle of 51 degrees 19 is also the angle of slope, according to Ivami, of the third pyramid of Giza, and is nearly 1/7 of a circle of 360 degrees. This in turn means that it is the angle subtended at the center of Stonehenge by an arc of any 9 of its 56 Aubrey holes. Moreover, this is the angle whose secant is defined by the Fibonacci ratio, 8/5, or phi, and thus the base angle of any 5x4x4 isosceles triangle. It is also quite interesting to note the complete circle of Stonehenge, including the ditch that surrounds it, fits precisely into the triangle of one side of the Great Pyramid. Just describing the three sides. Alright, hold on. I'll make this bigger. So Stonehenge can fit into the side of the pyramid of Giza like that. And then that, we just have measurements. All right, and continuing on, the pyramid at Giza is made up of 2,600,000 blocks of granite and limestone weighing approximately 3 tons, each precisely shaped for its own location so that a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. It is geodetically aligned to within 4 minutes of the polar axis, true north, around which the Earth rotates. Compare this to the modern man's accomplishment, the Paris Observatory in France, which is aligned only within 6 minutes of a degree of true north. We got 2 photographs here of the pyramids in Giza. You know what? I think this will be it for today. So that's a lot of very wordy information I just read to all of you. That is a lot. And we're on page 12 now. So next time we do this, we'll be talking about the Pyramid of Giza. And this eventually gets back around to Ed and Coral Castle. What, page 24, we got a full spread image there. So we've gotten through 11 pages. We're going to start on page 12 next week. And hopefully we'll get up to the Coral Castle portion of this paper here. And then we'll have about 12 to 15 pages after that. I don't want to rush through any of this, but it's a lot of information. Especially when we start talking about measurements and all the different countries' measurements. The Remen, the royal cubit, the Palestinian cubit, the Roman pace, the megalithic yard, the furlong, the mile, the megalithic mile, the... Whew. Yeah, there's a lot here. Should chew on that for a while, everyone. That's going to be it for today. I didn't think this was going to be so technical, but here we are. I mean, it's a paper, so go figure. It's going to be technical. But, yeah, we'll continue next week. Next week, Tuesday at 5 p.m. here. So I changed it to 5 instead of 4:30 because I figured it'd give more people time to log on here. But, if it's still too early, I could always make it later. But if you guys have a preference on when you want to watch, let me know. Because I can probably accommodate it. But yeah, that'll do it today. We are on page 12 now. So, right here. It's going to get very technical here. Talking about the megalithic sites. And how Coral Castle ties into all that. Alright. So, that's it for today, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate y'all being here. Thursday should have the Bermuda Triangle series going. And that should be at 5 o'clock Central Time as well. And then we have Saturday with the Chicago film industry. And that should be at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So let me know if you're planning on stopping by. You say hi. Just leave a like. Leave me a comment. It all helps everything. It helps boost the algorithm. Helps boost my mood. But, yeah, it's cool when I see you guys all interacting here. But expect to continue seeing Coral Castle for, I want to say, another 2 weeks before we start slowing that down. I won't be closing out every series. Some of these series I'll leave open so that I could add more later. Coral Castle might be that type of series where when we get to part 10 and we finish that paper, and I explain all of the slideshow photos that I show every week. I go over each one in detail because I haven't done that yet. Then there won't be nearly as much information to cover for me on this topic, so I'm expecting part 10 to be the last one for a little while. And let me check. So that'd be the 25th of March. So over the next 2 weeks, we'll plan to get that technical paper read that talks about Coral Castle. And then I'll do the photo explanations from my trip to Coral Castle. And then that's probably going to be it for who knows how long. Then on the other hand, we have Bermuda Triangle. and I'm doing a series on that on Thursdays. That will definitely go past 8 parts, but we're only going to be on part 5 right now, this week on Thursday. So there's a lot of that going on. We're going chapter by chapter. I'm doing what I can so that we can all get we'll get accumulated or acclimated. We'll get accumulated and we'll get acclimated. How about that? We'll familiarize ourselves with everything, but we'll do it together. And then on Saturday is the 1900s Chicago Film History Deep Dive series. And I do want to incorporate a little more of Chicago architecture in that one. And I do have a few books on that as well with printed photos. So I'll probably be referring to that during those deep dives as well. But yeah, again, please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe if you're not already. And I'll see you 2 more times this week, and I will continue to do so. So until the next one, class dismissed.